Welcome to Lyme Support Network podcast, hosted by Holistic Therapy Tribe. In each episode, we talk with someone from Lyme community like a doctor, warrior, coach, advocate, or an entrepreneur to hear their personal story and insights. Today, our focus is on a Lyme warrior and also an entrepreneur. Our guest is Evelyn Hallford. Evelyn is a co-founder of eCore Wellness, an integrative and regenerative medicine clinic in South California. She has a strong background in science and education with a degree in biology and a master's in education. She survived Lyme disease and cancer, which inspired her to focus on healing through advanced treatments like EBOO, stem cells, peptides, IV therapy, and naturopathic medicine. Before her wellness journey, Evelyn served as a paramedic and EMS instructor, giving her a profound understanding of emergency medicine. Evelyn, welcome to the podcast. So, can you share a little about your background and what inspired you to enter the field of integrative and regenerative medicine?
I didn't really expect to be where I am, but life throws you things, and I think that everything's a blessing in disguise. But I started in medicine at a very young age as a paramedic in pre-hospital emergency medicine and fell in love with it. The adrenaline, the critical care aspects, it made me want to learn more about the human body. So I went ahead and got a degree in biology and was pre-med, and didn't want to be in a clinic, though. I didn't think, studying my entire career. I love the outdoors and things like that. So I stayed a paramedic, and then I was involved in a pretty serious ambulance crash when I was young. And I had a traumatic brain injury, back injuries, and shoulder injuries, neck injuries, and all of that kind of transformed me, because then I went on to finish my biology degree and become an instructor and teach EMTs and paramedics. And I've been really proud of that. And then moved up to the clinical coordinator role in quality assurance and quality improvement and oversight of EMS programs and working for fire departments. So I spent the whole earlier part of my career looking at sick people and people in crisis and in health crisis, kind of downstream, where illness can lead, which is those chronic conditions. And never thought that would happen to me. And I got bit by a tick in 2015. And then that kind of changed my life. And I became a person, that was ill and sick and with chronic illness. And that's, that no one knew how to answer. And I was just flabbergasted, like dumbfounded by how I was being treated by peers in the traditional medical community. Given my background, given what I do for a living, I'm like, I would look at them and be like, really? Anxiety? You think that this is all in my head and I have anxiety? I'm a paramedic. So when you don't know what to do and you pick up the phone, who do you call? You call a paramedic. And so I would just sit there and just couldn't handle how I was being treated and how no one could explain what was happening to me. And I don't want to, that's pretty much what's led me to eCore and to our clinic and to my journey and what we do here.
Okay. And how long it took to get the correct diagnosis?
So for me, I was bit by a tick in whitewater rafting in the Ozarks on a family vacation. And, you've got they say a 50-50 shot. I think it's a lot higher than that, but that's what people were saying, if you have Lyme disease or not. So I was just going, I'll be okay. But I slept with it. It was on me for 24 hours. And I woke up in the hotel room itching and had this tick on me. So that happened in July. And by December, I was having allergic reactions to food. My throat was swelling. I had this sore. It wasn't a bullseye rash, but I had this abscess on my side. And I had gone to my local clinic and the doctor, but not till about a month after I'd gotten bit. And I did do my rounds of doxycycline because that bite was not healing. And I knew better. So I went in because it was like an ulcer sore on my side, and which was very strange. And it would flare every full moon, which is another thing. People look at doctors and be like, are you losing your mind? I'd be like, it is what it is. But, so I was first treated with just a round of doxycycline and was hopeful that everything would be okay. And then it wasn't. And fast forward, I get an MRI of my brain. I start having neurological symptoms. They say, you have ALS, you have lesions on your brain. My nervous system was crumbling. I didn't know what was happening, and it happened very quickly. Like I was maintaining and then I wasn't. And my whole life changed at that point.
So that means diagnosis happened very quickly in your case.
Yeah, I was lucky because I had the actual
You're very lucky.
Yeah, I knew I got bit by a tick. So, and the other thing I had going for me at the time was I was a paramedic program director of a program. And so the people in the community like took me seriously. Like a lot of our patients don't get taken seriously, so they took me seriously. And I thank God every day for that doctor. And when people were saying going down this route, sending me to neurology and sending me to all these places for ALS, I was the right age for MS, ALS, all those things, which when you sit in Lyme clinics and you sit in Lyme treatment rooms, you hear several people have the same story where they misdiagnosed with lupus, MS, ALS, so the category they would all put us in. I feel like if you had Lyme disease, you went into those categories. And so, or just anxiety, just psychiatric. So the great categories to be in because of people just not understanding that Lyme existed in a chronic form. And I just thank goodness every day that I had a community doctor that did, because in my peer group, what I did for a living normally, EMS doctors, and even as I went on to work at UCLA and agencies like that, they did not believe that Lyme existed in a chronic phase. And they looked at me and treated me terribly. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget what that felt like. And so when patients come to ECAR, I'm like, oh, do I get you? And I learned in my life to hide it and not be ashamed of it. And it wasn't because I was ashamed I had Lyme disease or what had happened to me. It was because I was just exhausted trying to get people to take me seriously. And and that was part of the biggest struggle. And it was just exhausting. It was just exhausting. And me looking at doctors like, you're a disease specialist, like you're an infectious disease specialist and you can't figure this out. No, I don't have malaria. I got bit by a tick. It's a tick-borne illness and it's happening to me. I don't care if you think it can't exist in a chronic state, because guess what? I'm really sick. I'm crumbling here. And it was a very hard time for me. I look back on it now and I can't believe I made it out the other end. And the only reason I made it out the other end was listening to other Lyme patients, reading everything I could read and figuring out how to guide doctors in treating my own care.
Yeah. So you had your own personal battle with the Lyme disease and cancer. So what was that journey like? And how did it shape your mission today?
So, the cancer was a blessing. And this is where I tell our patients every day, when their families are treatment fatigued, they're fatigued, that's been a long road. I always wish that people would find us at the high end of their start of their journey. And they always find us at the end when they've been sick for a very long time. They've tried everything. Their will is exhausted as well as their finances. And I was that person too. And I went to I thank God every day I went to a Lyme clinic that also practiced aggressive alternative oncology treatments. And I had Bartonella as a co-infection, like a lot of Lyme patients do. So my neck was super swollen. And so my doctor there, my naturopath, not a naturopath, you folks, and doctors out there that are elite. It was a naturopath that saved my life, because he felt my tumor while he was palpating my lymph nodes because of the Bartonella. We did a certain round of antibiotics while I was getting my port put in, because I had to have a port. I was about 2 weeks from a ventilator at that point, because my neurological system was so affected that I could barely lift my chest to breathe. And of course, we know now, like oxygen utilization and things like that are diminished in Lyme patients, but I couldn't breathe very well. And so everyone got very aggressive. And the fact that they even palpated my neck is a miracle. And I said, oh, I know. I said, my other doctor said my neck's just swollen. I just have a big neck. because of the Bartonella. And he was like, yeah, but it should be equal on both sides. Let's get that ultrasound. And I already had a stage 3 thyroid cancer tumor on my cancer. And I was in the right place because a lot of the Lyme treatments, like high dose vitamin C, curcumin, hydrogen peroxide, everything like that also works on papillary cancers. So Lyme disease was one of the, and the thing that blew my mind was I had the Mayo Clinic insurance, and the Mayo Clinic wouldn't take me on as a Lyme patient. I didn't meet their criteria because I'd already started alternative care. The great Mayo Clinic, and in the middle, that's located, headquarters in the middle of Lyme country in Minnesota. And this was at the Arizona clinic, and they wouldn't take me on. And, but when I had cancer and had my Mayo insurance, it paid for everything. And so, balancing the two between the having traditional medicine pay for the cancer and then the Lyme, again, I was just sitting there going, I have cancer and I'm being treated so well. But this cancer is so easy and it's hard, but it is nothing compared. And the cancer treatment was horrible. I had to have my neck sliced in. I looked like Frankenstein. And here I am getting, have to go in and have a tumor removed. And I'm like, you don't understand right now. I'm incredibly allergic to everything because I have mast cell, I have SIRS, and I'm really nervous about getting this anesthesia. And I'm literally talking to the anesthesiologist, and he doesn't even hear me as I start to go out. Like, I'm not, my body is extra sensitive and I pass out because no one cares that you have Lyme disease and these things are happening to you. They just think you're cuckoo, and they've got another surgery at 4:00, So it was very scary to have both and try to transverse those because I was going in an endangered state, in a fight or flight, sympathetic overdrive, mast cell, SIRS, had all these issues going on. And they're like, your vital signs are fine. Your lung sounds are clear. The only thing that saved me was actually having, some documentation, having an MRI, having things like that these things were happening to me. And I refused to say, oh, I have MS or I'm heading toward, or ALS. They think blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I have Lyme disease. Because, I wanted people to see. Even then I was trying to educate the medical community. And luckily with my background, I can speak. I'm used to teaching doctors. I'm used to teaching and speaking at that level. I have a very strong understanding of human anatomy and physiology. I knew what was happening to my body, but, and I could see it. And that helped me. And I would have friends that said, God, if this happened to us, what would we do? Like, how would we just die? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know. Call me.
How did your experience as a paramedic and EMS instructor influence your perspective on health and healing?
Well, I think that is what I was just alluding to a little bit, is that it gave me determination and it gave me a onset. Chronic illness is not something paramedics deal with. And I actually chose that career and didn't want to go into nursing because I liked that. I liked that I was in this acute phase with a patient on the worst day of their life for these many moments, dealing with an acute cardiac issue, a neurological issue, respiratory issue, traumatic event, and I loved that. And then I dropped them off at the ER and I was done. That was something that was, I liked. So then to turn to chronic illness though, not only was I a paramedic in the field, but I had the education behind me. So I had the background in anatomy and physiology, teaching AP anatomy and physiology, and teaching intense lectures to paramedic level, students and things like that for 20 years when I got sick. And so that really helped me. And then also having the professional clout, I want to say, or was at a certain point in my career where I could not be ashamed and just be like, look, what's happening to me. I think the hardest thing for me was being in a very, I wouldn't say that it's a sensitive field. I mean, it's EMS, it's the fire service, it's and dealing with this emotional system and this body, that's all out of whack, and these things happening to me, and being in sympathetic overdrive and appearing to be emotional or having to cry or things like that, like so many of our Lyme patients do when they're herpesing. So, I would be going through a herx and have to go to work that day and just be dealing with all of these things, and not be able to explain. But the minute I got cancer, I had all the support in the world. And that helped me because people knew I wasn't feeling well because I had cancer and I was going through treatment. But when it was just the Lyme, it was just horrible. And it took everything I could do because I also didn't want to lose my health insurance because I knew, that I needed it. If this Lyme disease, I could end up in the hospital in an ICU. That's where I was headed. And so I had to keep working. But working in that field, I was very closed off. When I did try to be open to people, and especially doctors, there wasn't one medical director that I worked with that believed that Lyme existed in a chronic condition form. And then it ruined my career in some places. When I was said, oh yeah, I use a Rife machine, they looked at me like, you work at the UCLA, like one of the greatest medical centers in the world, and you're using a Rife machine, and those are things I had to deal with. And so I learned to just be quiet about the Lyme disease. It was really sad. But I will say that my experience and working in medical and everything like that made me determined to believe that what was happening. I had the know enough to know, like, no, I can put myself on a cardiac monitor right now, and my heart rate truly is 160 as as I'm having a POTS episode. I can check my oxygen saturation and be like, whoop, nope, that baby's 92. That's 92%. My temperature is this. And so there were those things where I could tell myself, I could actually know what was going on with my body and then be able to chart all that and have all that history too. So that was very beneficial. But I think it's what my background in confidence that I got from being a paramedic and from being able to step out and advocate for those on their worst day and be that advocate for a patient is probably my biggest inspiration that's brought me to this point, is advocating now. I feel on a larger level for people that have no voice.
So, what moment made you realize that conventional medicine alone was not enough, and that you need to explore root cause and integrative approaches?
Yeah, the clinic that I went to in Arizona, thank God it was a blend of MDs and naturopathic doctors. And at the same time, we were getting, no one told us that if you had Lyme disease, you'd have parasites. No one told us if you had Lyme disease, you'd also have high fungal counts, and that you'd have bacteria, and that you'd probably be susceptible to mold. There was times where, thank God, like just sitting in the room with other patients and being able to talk about everything we were going through and then put it together ourselves, and hearing what other people had gone and done. And I would sit here going, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Like being a paramedic and being traditional medicine minded and watching what we were putting our bodies through. Like, what am I going to do right now? I'm going to drop my blood sugar to what? To like 15. And because I need to have this antibiotic cross my blood-brain barrier and go into my brain. Like, I know this isn't going to be good for me, but I have to do this. I am so desperate, and just sit there and do those IV therapies day after day after day to where you're sick and where you're doing that. And only because you have hope, and you've heard somewhere that it helped someone else. And that was a big leap for me. But what I saw in the people that I met and the patients that I met, I had belief in what I was doing. And my earlier days when I was injured as a paramedic in the ambulance crash, I turned a lot to holistic care then and became a nutritionist. So I understood the power of nutrition. And my mother and I always had this kind of holistic mind. Like Dr. Andrew Weil was like our hero. We were always trying to eat anti-inflammatory and do all these things. But what I didn't understand was the environmental impact of the world around us and what it was having on my body. For example, having mercury in my mouth, from my dental fillings and all these things. And it all made sense, right? That all this stuff was affecting me. And I just thank God every day that I was at a clinic where people understood this. And they were determined to get to the bottom of what was going on. Now, when you're in treatment as a Lyme patient, if Lyme patients are listening, things come up, and you have to pivot and you have to take pauses and you have to do these things and you have to change. But cancer coming up was a big one for me because it slowed down my Lyme treatment and my body was even, more compromised at that point. But I knew that if I created if I could make myself a balanced alkalotic, non-acidic, acidotic environment, if I stopped being this amazing host for these pathogens like Lyme bacteria and co-infections and parasites, if I could become somewhere they didn't want to be, they would get out of me. And I know that sounds crazy for people like listening, but I'm putting it very plainly to people so that they understand it. That's when I really went full holistic, where I heard the doctors got the tumor out, it was removed, things looked good. But I knew that if I didn't get rid of Lyme in my body, and I knew that if I didn't take care of these things, I would get cancer again. I just knew it. And I'm just grateful every day that we were somewhere where we could see I wasn't the only one sitting at that clinic that had Lyme and had cancer. And being able to make those connections, those were the first days of that. It blows my mind where we're at right now with the science and this medicine. But I look back on those days and we were pioneers. Like, we were really figuring this out. And to be able to say that and know that, and then to see it manifest in my body, and I know that. So, eating sugar, having an anti-inflammatory diet, cutting gluten, all these things, you don't have real allergies, you have leaky gut, you have all these things. You have to heal all that to prevent worse things coming downstream from happening, and being able to rely on naturopathic medicine for that. When you're downstream, there's a place for traditional medicine. Like, I had to go to traditional medicine too. I'm not anti-traditional medicine at all, but they're definitely, that's what at eCore, at our clinic, there's a balance of the two. And I love it because it's important. But it was my own experience to answer your question and figuring this all out. I mean, we figured it out. I just had a team that got it, which was great.
So what is eCore Wellness and how does it stand apart from traditional clinics in Southern California?
There's so many. eCore stands apart because it's cutting edge, and there's a lot of people out there that aren't aware of the protocols that we have, especially for Lyme disease. We're not afraid to be out there on the edge. And when I first stumbled onto, I went to traditional Lyme treatment too, and I had hold on one second. I had to tell my team I'm on a podcast and I have to have the door open for the internet. But eCore Wellness is, for years, I've been a Lyme advocate, talking to Lyme patients, going to other clinics, talking to them through, exhausting myself on the phone, being there for people because they'd be like, call Evelyn, she went through this. Even other clinics, call Evelyn. And so I just said, I turned 50 and I had that moment where I just said, in 2015, when I first discovered ozone therapy, and I'd already been through my Lyme protocol, exhausted thousands of dollars, had to take out home equity lines, was financially destitute and I was a lot better. I was better, but I wasn't me. I still wasn't healed. I was still struggling. I was like, I cannot do this. There's got to be a better way. And I found ozone therapy in Europe and found stem cell therapy, and just said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. That was when we couldn't do it here in the United States. And as things have, if anything good comes out of the pandemic, it's that people's minds have shifted, things have changed. And doctors are having to face the fact that there is chronic illness, there's tick-borne illnesses, there's, fibromyalgia, there's, chronic fatigue, all these things that existed that they didn't know how to deal with, long haul COVID. It just opened up this unique opportunity where it was the time to go. What is amazing to me is everything that we figured out for ourselves, down to parasite kills, down to what supportive IVs need to be done, how to build a body up, how to do all these things, the protocols that we have that came from Europe and that we're using, people are talking about now. There is still pushback in using ozone, but our patients are in remission. I was in remission. Everyone I was in treatment with are in remission, and we know what we're doing, and it does heal and it does work. And so I'm not afraid anymore. And I invite the conversations, I invite the controversy, because I answer to a higher power. And this was also exciting for me to learn the science of ozone medicine and to learn how to apply that to different treatment protocols. And so eCore came out of the ability to be able to have, when we started, there was only 5 EBU machines in the United States. And actually a friend of mine, Angie, that was in treatment with me and went down to Mexico, to Cabo is where we had to go for Dr. Hanley at STEMAID. She's a brilliant doctor. And we've built a machine with her help, and my friend Angie did, and she was determined to bring EBU to the United States. And with that, the protocols and the knowledge, though. And when we started, there was only 5 in the whole United States. That's pre-pandemic. Then COVID happens. What happens? You have a virus. You have ozone apheresis, and now you have a better filter on it that does parasites, that does fungus, that filters blood, that can kill, can filter viral particles, that can do all of these things, heavy metals, PFAs, forever chemicals, and things like that out of your bloodstream. And then better yet, these things are anaerobic, and you can hyperoxygenate your blood in a few weeks and create, and it has so many benefits among killing these pathogens, as well, because they're anaerobic, so they can't thrive in an oxygen-rich environment. And then filtering them out of your blood and cleaning your blood so that they can't grow and manifest, and getting them out of your tissues. There's a lot of work that goes into our protocols. And as I watched other people post-pandemic get EBU and learn about EBU, and watching it show up in chiropractors' offices, where I actually, I don't think that that's a bad thing, but in med spas and things like that. We actually partnered with a chiropractor's office too, because there's a place for it in sports medicine and sports rehab. It's very efficient. I mean, hyperbarics, EBU, I have a strong background in hyperbaric medicine and understanding it and starting working in a very young age at it. So for me, oxygen therapies was a no-brainer. And I was always looking at it for emergency applications, right, as a dive medic and things like that. And working at UCSD in San Diego at the chamber when I was very, very young, I learned a lot. And I have another good friend who's just a pioneer in hyperbarics. She's so knowledgeable. So us having conversations about the oxygen therapies just totally made sense. And then I went and experienced it. And, I got my life back after doing EBU and stem cell therapy. In 3 months, I was a total different person. And I've been in remission ever since. And I just don't want other people to have to go through what I went through. And that's what eCore is. And so eCore brings everything. It's all under one roof. We had the fascia work and fascia body treatments, acupuncture, naturopathic medicine with craniosacral work to help calm the autonomic nervous system. We do EBU is our big hammer. It's our large hammer. So extracorporeal blood oxygenation and filtration. And it's our large hammer, and we build our protocols around it. But it's here. And then all the supportive therapies too. And to create this has just been a dream come true. And that's what eCore is. And you don't have to have a chronic condition. You don't have to have Lyme disease. We are passionate about cancer protocols as well. But we meet the patient where they're at, whether you need a metabolic reset, you need a detox, you need to just be healthy, hormones, everything. We are that place. And it's you can actually get your lab work done and sit across from your doctor and go over everything and not be judged and listened and welcomed. And that's what eCore is.
So your clinic focuses on root cause healing and cellular restoration. Can you explain what does that mean in practical terms for our audience?
Yeah, root cause medicine. I love it because it's getting to the root. So I'm just going to give some examples right now. Like the traditional medical community will diagnose a patient with POTS. Well, we're like, why do they have POTS? they'll say, oh, you have mast cell. It's like, okay, but what's causing the mast cell? So we get down to that root of what's causing that. It's like, and right now we live in a very, very toxic environment where we're exposed to a lot of pesticides, we're exposed to a lot of bacteria, we're exposed to a lot of different mold and mycotoxins, from things that we put in our mouth to the air that we breathe to the buildings that we work and live in. And everything's fine and dandy until you get like a big virus like COVID, or you get something like that happen to your body where the toxin load is just super high, and say your body doesn't have the correct detox pathways, it has those pathways, but they're not working correctly. Those people end up with the chronic form of these diseases, of these conditions. They're not, and we can treat that. That's root cause. So when we can figure that out, our long haul COVID patients, like, we have a very high success rate, but we have a really good spike protein detox protocol to get rid of all of that, and then we look at the root cause. Like, when our patients start a protocol, we don't just let them through the protocol. We're checking labs, we're checking things, we're watching how they respond to treatments. And we're really getting with functional testing and lab work, blood work, all these things, we can figure out what are some of these root causes, and we can identify them, go after them. And then it's pretty simple from there. And then, treating, it's not simple because the patient has to go through a 4 to 6 week protocol. But using tools like ozone therapy, stem cells, and things like that, it's a lot shorter than doing 6-month detox protocols with oral supplements. Right now, this move to parasites, everyone's got parasites. And I'm like, oh my God, this needs to stop. People are carpet bombing their guts. Like, they're coming in with pictures on their phones. They have massive anxiety. Their stomachs are bloated. They have, candida. They have all of this stuff. And they're like showing me pictures on their phone of their parasites. And I'm like, my naturopath and I are like, that's not a parasite. That's the lining of your gut that's rolled up and looks like a parasite. Sheets like that's the lining of your gut. So people are destroying their stomachs, but they think they're doing something good because they're not working with a medical team or with doctors to help them figure that out, and go after what is there. And we can tell a lot now by functional diagnostics and tests. And we get at that root cause, we eradicate it, and we get it out of your body, and then we help your body heal. So we identify, we kill, and we regenerate. And that's kind of the way we do things. And that's root cause medicine. And then treating the terrain is that healing part, right? Where we come in and we treat the terrain with things like stem cells. The ozone also helps do that, supporting the body with NAD and all these different healing things. But then this is where I love the regenerative phase, because that's where we fine tune things. We run more tests and we say, where's your body at now after you finish this protocol, and how can we support it heal? The hard part about our type of medicine is that people are used to taking a pill. And they're like, this is 3 months, this is 6 months, this is a process, but you will get better. And it is so amazing to see the transformations happen. It's really amazing.
So many of our listeners may not be familiar with the EBOO. Can you explain what it is and how it helps people with chronic Lyme disease?
So I'm pausing before I go down a whole scientific discussion on EBOO, because it's so fascinating as ozone therapies, because there's other forms of ozone therapies out there. But I'm just going to, extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation is a procedure where it's really nice because it doesn't involve any central lines like dialysis, right? It's all venous access. And so it's a process where everything is run externally. We have a filter that acts as a semi-permeable cell membrane that's coated with a diacylate. And a lot of the IP and ingenuity went into this filter. And not all EBOO filters are created correctly, are created the same. And so our machine has one, and we're proud that it's a safe machine, and that's endorsed by the American Academy of Ozone Therapy, because there's a lot of out there that aren't. And my friend Angie did a great job developing this machine. And so the filter goes on the outside of the machine. We start an IV. We pull 3 to 5 liters of blood. It goes through the filter. And then it goes as it's coming back. And then we start another IV on your other arm. And so when it is going, the blood is then filtered as it's coming back in the other arm, it's then exposed to ozone.
Mm.
And so you're getting filtered, but after your blood has been filtered, and we try to do 3 to 5 liters of blood in 45 minutes. It's not that long of a procedure. It's just 2 IVs. And then when you see the filter and you see things like biofilms, mycotoxins, I mean, you see microclots, you see these things that people are dealing with, and you see it come out in the filter. And we know that especially Lyme and the biofilms now can hide in there. So we're filtering that debris out of the blood, and then the ozone is going in. The ozone, it's just common sense, right? These things are anaerobic. So what's oxygen going to do to them? Just to put it simple. But there are so many more benefits to the ozone therapy over time and after repeated sessions, where people, immune system modulation, the mast cell, every time we filter out a toxin load, every time we're able to do that. And then the ozone's going in and modulating that immune response, calming the sympathetic nervous system, helping with all of those symptoms as well. It's also very healing to the nervous system. And we do things like vitamin B complex IVs and things like that to support the nervous system healing while you're doing the protocol. But the ozone alone helps with a lot of that. So it helps calm those massive, it does immune system modulation and nervous system, the autonomic regulation of the nervous system. It's just so beneficial to people. And so that's a pretty basic way of describing some of the benefits. I could do just a whole talk for an hour on it. But for Lyme disease, it's very beneficial because it has this Panacea effect, right? So this Panacea effect where, we have Lyme, but we also have mold, parasites, mycotoxins, and this whole thing. Well, the ozone's going to get at all of that because they're all anaerobic. And so oxygen therapies are very efficient at doing that. And then filtering them out of your body and getting them out, And then also we follow up the EBU with stem cell therapy, which is when you have given yourself an oil change and your cells and tissues are hydrated and primed, all the damage that Lyme disease has caused to your nervous system, to your organs, to your body. We do know that we see trends where you've had pre-existing injuries or issues. Lyme disease likes to go, like where you're weak. And it hides in your fascia tissue. So that's another thing we do. I should stop and mention that, is we make sure that you get a lot of fascia work and lymphatic work. And then it gets it all stirred up, and then we put you on EBU and we filter it out. And it's a great thing to see happen. And then I feel that for Lyme patients, it's probably one of the quickest and most effective treatments out there. And people go, oh, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. Well, there's a lot of skill and labor and equipment that goes into an EBU. But when I look at what a typical Lyme protocol is, which is like 60, 80,000, like I spent 100,000, right? And you can do the EBU and stem cells for like half of that. And I always tell people, but no one ever finds us first. But yes, it's very effective treatment. And it's just understanding you have something that's anaerobic, you're giving your body oxygen, and then you're filtering the die-off, because the die-off is what causes the hurt. So the die-off is what causes those issues. And so in a nutshell, that's what EBU does for Lyme patients. But I hope I explained it though, so everyone can understand it. I didn't want to get too technical about it.
So peptide is becoming a big topic in longevity medicine. Can you share how you use them at Ecor Wellness?
It's kind of exciting because when I was sick and learning about EBU and our IV protocols, and just remember too, going back to EBU, because this will lead into peptides, is that EBU is a one hammer. And there's a lot of clinics out there with EBU, and Ecor is different because they don't have our protocols. They don't understand. So people with Lyme patients are going and getting EBU because they've done all this other treatment. Like, I'll just spend the money on the EBU. And all that's going to do is stir things up, because ozone can stir things up, and break up biofilms too. And people, if their detox pathways aren't being supportive, get really sick. And so that's why it's important to go where you have, like, we have Lyme literate and Lyme, our doctors are used to treating Lyme patients, because a lot of EBU can be overstimulating and harsh if you're not following a protocol. It's just a hammer in a larger protocol. So that's where the peptides come in, because now, like when I did EBU for, in 50 peptides weren't around in 2015. Like hardly anyone was using them. I mean, we were taking them as supplements. Who wasn't taking, CoQ10? I mean, well, that's not a peptide that we use now, but I'm just saying we were using, precursors to NAD, and we were supplementing with things like that. But now that we have peptides. Peptides are part of treating that terrain I was talking about. So when we run labs on our patients while they're on our protocol, when we're like, we see where we can support them. That's where and they come in a very important downstage to help with inflammation and things. So all of our patients on our protocols get BPC. They get an anti-inflammatory. All of our patients are getting NAD. And as they taper off our protocol, there's other things like LDN. There's other peptides that we use. Thiamine alpha-1 for immune system modulation has become very powerful in our Lyme protocols. We started using it in our cancer protocols. And then, oh my goodness, since COVID, it's been very important. We've even stepped up, the different use of the peptides when our patients finish the protocol as supportive. And that all is treating the terrain. So our team too, like we love incorporating the peptides to help treat that terrain when a person's healing. But we do use them in our main protocol as well, depending on what the patient needs. And it's all to support the patient while they're on the protocol is what we use a lot of peptide treatments for. In the clinic as a whole, though, I mean, we do GLP-1s, we do, especially for hormone patients and menopausal patients and things like that. Most of our Lyme patients all need hormonal support too, and vitamin D support and things like that while they're going through our detox. But as a whole, the clinic, we use peptides, and every patient that comes through this door, there's a role for them. They're just great to treat the terrain and support patients.
IV therapies are often dismissed as just vitamins. What makes them powerful in case of Lyme and cancer recovery?
A lot of patients that come in with Lyme, and cancer and all of that. I mean, the body, we can go into the differences on how the body gets destroyed, chemo, radiation, cellular level, the guts take takes a very strong toll on the gut. And then Lyme, we're coming in with leaky gut, all these different things, and inflammation and a massive amount of dyssymbiosis that happens in the gut. And we know because we can run functional tests and we can see that there's a large amount of dyssymbiosis going on in the gut. IV therapies, yeah. So that's where we're going with IV therapies. And so when we can use IV therapies and bypass the gut with, oral supplementation is not very effective right now for these patients while they're in crisis.
Oh.
And so when we can bypass, and then for patients on a norm too, like if you're just, it goes right into the bloodstream, it's immediately absorbed and utilized. And that's what we need our patients to do. We need our patients to have the NAD for the extra support in the Krebs cycle in all of their tissues so that the ozone therapies can work, so that their detox pathways work better. We need them to have that B complex to support their nervous system, especially while they're going through our treatment. We need to use chelation IVs. So the IV therapies are very important. And there's a lot, my naturopaths, are one of them is a very strong vitalist. And she's like, you got to get all, but that's where our therapies can help, because that's why she loves Zebu so much, because you got to get all the bad stuff out so you can make way for the good stuff. But that doesn't happen immediately. It takes months for your organs to regenerate, tissues to heal, your gut to become balanced. And so IV therapies are very effective if you're one of those people. And then who doesn't need to supplement with a good vitamin IV these days? Our immune systems have taken such a hit. We've been so exposed to so many pathogens in the last few years. And who doesn't need that, And it's just a better way of, immediate absorption, your body utilizing them and helping your body heal and be healthy at a cell level and quickly.
From your perspective, why is Lyme disease so difficult to diagnose and treat?
I think that there's just, there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of egos involved, and it shouldn't be about egos. And there's a lot of, even like ozone therapy, like we hear, there's a lot of Lyme groups and Lyme institutions that still don't advocate for EBU and for high dose ozone, even though our patients get better. And this therapy's been around since 2000, and it came from Germany. And and it came from Italy and then in Europe, and it's been practiced and for a whole different, especially viruses and viral loads. And we get pushback on that. And there's all this, Lyme lives in the lymph. You can't stimulate the lymph and you can't detox it out. And you can't do that because they can't handle it. But I think that the COVID, again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, is that the pandemic was a blessing, and that even like where I was, the great Mayo Clinic, or they wouldn't take me on as a Lyme patient, or, I think of the infectious disease doctor I went to at the U of A, and I think of some of the people at UCLA that treated me the way they treated me. It was just arrogance and believing that these illnesses can't exist in a chronic form. And for some people, they don't. We see it every day. We see husbands and wives come in that were exposed to COVID at the same time. One has long haul COVID and the other one does not. But you know what? That person has an MTHFR mutation. That person they don't detox the same way as the other person does. This person has a lot of metal in their mouth. They have a huge load of heavy metals. This person does not. We can see the effects. And when these toxin loads and when the body gets, what is normal for one person is not the same for the other person. And I think that that's been the hardest thing, is refusing to look at when people are coming to you and saying that they have this, they have that, and then diagnosing them with POTS or MCAS and not going, why? Just why? And why did spike proteins affect some people and not others? Now, there are some tests going on. There are some studies going on finally in the traditional medical world about all of this. And so I'm excited. And that's where I was going with this, is that I do think that there's a shift, and I'm excited about the shift. And I'm excited for medicine, and I'm really proud of ECOR and that we're on that cutting edge. And I'm so excited. And I hope that this podcast, I hope that I cause controversy. I hope that I get people talking. I hope that I get, people to listen that these chronic illnesses, there's a reason why. And when you get to that root cause and you treat the body as a whole, it can heal. You can heal. You have to help it, but you can heal. Now there's things that, again, I'm not anti-traditional medicine. It's just a different approach. And I think that people need to turbo cancers since COVID. And I'd hate to say it, but vaccine injuries and things like that. I just kind of feel like, and trust me, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't want polio. But can we do better? Can we make safe vaccines? Why not? Can we do better? Can we understand that tick-borne illnesses do exist in a chronic state? And it's actually, it's destroying people's lives. Can't we just have health insurance that allows us to use it for traditional or non-traditional care? Can't we just do better? And I think that that's happening, and it's exciting. And I'm so excited for ECOR. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be on this podcast. I'm so excited that I can talk about detox pathways and parasites and IV therapies for Lyme patients, because everyone thought I was cuckoo doing what I was doing. It all made sense though to get a coumarin IV for my cancer, but not for my Lyme disease, So I'm excited. I'm super excited about where we're at. Hang in there, everyone. It's happening.
So, what misconceptions about Lyme would you like more people to understand?
It does exist in a chronic form.
No.
Okay. That's the number one thing. The number two thing is that everybody is different. Everyone responds differently to it. It doesn't always hit everyone in the nervous system. It doesn't always hit everyone the same way. So there's different forms of it, and understanding that is imperative. The co-infections are just as serious and can be just as harmful as the Lyme bacteria itself. We shouldn't mess around with Babesia and what how it affects the body, and Bartonella too. Cat scratch fever and what they used to call it, things like that. These co-infections are serious. And the most important thing too is the misconception about Lyme patients is that it's all in our head. I swear to God, if I have one more person looks at me and tells me that my anxiety is all in my head, I hear you people. I hear you out there. It's not. And again, long haul COVID and people struggling with spike protein illness and vaccine injury and this are opening a new door for Lyme patients too, because now people are seeing chronic, manifestations of the things that we've been dealing with, the mast cell, the surge, the POTS, everything like that. And the fact that we can be in remission and the fact that we can heal, just hang on. And I think the misconception too is that you're going to have it for the rest of your life and that you can't be healthy again. I'm here to tell you, no, that's not true, and that you can, and you'll be a better version of yourself. Actually, like I'm a better, why? Because, a few months ago, or I would say like little things in your life, like you're getting stressed, you're this and that. I want to eat sugar. I want to drink too much. I want to have more than one cocktail. I want to do this and do that. And I'll stop myself and go, you're a cancer survivor. You're a Lyme warrior. You went through all of this and you're going to do that to your body. So you just, and then the other gift that I have is that, coming out the other side, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you're just always going to be sick and you're always going to be diseased and things like, and you don't have to be. So just don't give up hope.
So you talk a lot about moving from symptom management to cellular restoration. What does that shift look like in practice?
That's where we shift to the terrain. And I love this phase of the healing process because our patients we've killed, we've filtered, and for us, it's now supporting the body. But everyone's different, right? Lyme manifests differently in different people. And then so do mold and mycotoxins. Some are based in the gut, some, depending on what their origin was. People get allergies from, mold and mycotoxins from like protein powders and things like that these days. Other people are getting them from their, from their environment and from their home. And so where they were stored in our tissues, this is the fight now. So getting them, getting the residual that we haven't filtered out, the low hanging fruit that's still there. And then also there's still some dead bacteria that's reacting that we need to get out. And so the detox doesn't continue. The detox continues, but at a very manageable level now, because we've done the big work with our EBU. And so it's really neat. We want to support the tissues. We want to support that healing. That's where the peptides come in to keep the inflammation down. We do want some level of inflammation, a healing flare, and we really watch that, but we don't want our patients we want the brain fog to go away. We want, them to get back to their lives. We want them to feel strong again. We want them to be able to go to the gym and get on the treadmill and their body not think that they're having mast cell and have an, exercise-induced anaphylaxis. Like we want to have them walk again and their oxygen utilization not be depleted, in 10 steps. And so we really work on where is this person weak? Do they need adrenal support? Does this person need hormone management? Do we need, what are their trace minerals like? What can we, and we go off of diagnostics, of course, every step of the way so that our patients know what we're treating and what we're doing. And I love that we use biomarkers and benchmarking and testing at ECOR because you know where your body's at and you constantly can support it. We also believe in acupuncture. We also believe in craniosacral therapies and a lot of, there's a lot of colonics involved in these treatments and there's a lot of supporting the body that way. And I used to joke, someday I'm going to do this for aesthetic reasons. Some days I'm going to do this like all these other people do this, not just to be healing. So this is when we support the tissues. This is when we support you inside and out and get you feeling better again. And this is an exciting phase. And stem cell therapy is a huge part of this for us. Using stem cells and using that therapy to be able to go in and heal these tissues and to do what they do and regenerate tissues. It's very exciting.
Can you share a success story from your clinic that really illustrates the power of this integrative approach?
I think one hit me the other day where a patient just sat in the chair and just started crying. And it wasn't because she was in the middle of her protocol, so it's a hard time, but she just started, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I know this week is hard, this and that. And she just looked at me. She goes, no, I'm crying because I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here with people that get it. I'm so happy to be here with someone who knows what I'm going through. And thank you for creating this place. And I'm going to cry right now because I was like, how can we support you today? I'm sorry that you feel so badly. We're going to add some extra minerals to your IV. And it was nothing clinical. It was just the fact that she could come here and just say, thank you for being here. And that was huge.
So, as someone who mentors in health entrepreneurship, what advice would you give to aspiring practitioners who want to enter this space?
It's controversial. We've been stopped every step of the way. That was in pre-pandemic. We've had our Instagram taken down. We've been sent, cease and desist letters to other practitioners, not me, for their websites from the FCC. We've been censored. You take it from your professional community and peers. I have a lot of friends that are in emergency medicine still and that are physicians and doctors and at that level. And I live in both worlds. And the only thing I have going for me is they knew me when I was sick and they know me now. And I just tell everyone, and we couldn't market, we couldn't advertise, we couldn't talk about what we were doing. I mean, we were constantly, afraid before. And I will tell you now that things are different and there is a shift. And so don't be afraid, be out there, have confidence in what you're doing. And our type of medicine isn't about having 10,000 followers. Our type of medicine is about helping 10 patients. So you're not a med spa that's going to be dabbling in stem cells. You're not a med spa that's going to be giving peptides. I mean, those are on every corner. If you really want to do what we do it. Learn ozone, learn stem cells, learn these therapies, because these are tools, but you have to learn the science, you have to learn the protocols. And it's the same with alternative cancer, right? EBU can be very effective in dealing with cancer patients and we have oncology support protocols, and ozone has been shown to help cancer patients when they're going. We can use it it doesn't matter what type of cancer they have, afterwards to help treat the terrain, help detox. And then there's a lot of studies out there before EBU, which is high dose ozone, MAH therapies actually helping cancer treatments and chemos just be more effective. And so we go hand in hand. So you've got to be able to work with traditional medicine. And I believe there is a place for traditional medicine. So don't go in here adversarial, because, you got to come in with an open mind, and we got to work with traditional medicine or we're never going to get anywhere. And I always approach things from an educational perspective, but the proof is in your patients. And my point is in my patients, and I answer to a higher power, and I know what we're doing. And I probably shouldn't be so confident in our therapies, but I never see people not get better, and they work. Is the journey different? Is there highs and lows? Do people give up and get mad and want to quit here without making it to the end? Yes. And do you feel like you failed them? Yes. And they've already spent money, and you're like, you just need to do a few more things. And they're like, forget it. And everyone's like, oh, traditional. We'll put up a video about EBU and we'll have people say quackery and all this. And I just don't care. I don't care. Because you know what? I got a patient that's been sick for 5 years, and she's walking out of this clinic tomorrow and she feels great.
So I work with the holistic practitioners. So I face this one. So for one of my practitioner, I got a question, this quackery, and I wrote a big reply for that. And did you get any notice from the FDA?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. People are like, well, is that approved by the FDA? And I was just say, not yet. Not yet, but we're pioneers. And instead of being apologetic, I'm like, not yet, but we're pioneers. If we don't start using this therapy, everything has to go through clinical trials. Everything has to go through research. It takes years. I mean, before people adopt things and before people bring them in, stem cells. Remember, I look back, 20 years ago at stem cell medicine. I look back at hyperbarics. I look back at hyperbarics. When I started hyperbarics, there was like 2 or 3 indications that insurance would cover hyperbarics for. And then fast forward, we do a study through the military on TBI and hyperbarics, and now there's so many indications that hyperbarics is good for. And so I feel like we're kind of in that phase, and it's just going to take time, but I don't care because there's a need for it, and I'm glad to be on this frontier. I actually think this is so exciting. And when people say it's quackery, when it's this, when it's that, you just think of your patients, think of the people that you're helping. And, I think that it doesn't, again, I'm never like, it has to be one way or the other, whatever works for you. There is a place for traditional medicine. There is a place for all these things. But what we do is supportive. What we do is we have a different approach. But everyone wants to help people, right? That's what we're doing for. We're invested in helping others. Let that be your drive. And I get depressed. I take some hard hits, especially doing things like this, being out there. I have friends that are like, what hocus pocus are you doing this week? And I'm like, oh, and I just smile because I'm like, hocus pocus. Well, this is your friend that, couldn't walk very well 5 years ago and couldn't barely breathe. And here I am. So it's hard, but believe in what you believe in. And the shift is here because traditional medicine, unfortunately, is making our jobs easier because it's failing with these chronic conditions and long haul COVID on a massive scale. So we can really make a difference.
If someone wants to get involved with the eCore Wellness, where should they begin?
Just go to our website, ecorewellness.com, or our Instagram and contact us. And we're always recruiting. We're always recruiting new practitioners. We're always recruiting and growing. And we are excited to have patients, and we're excited to have people come experience us. This place is very special. And I think that it's a center where for healing. We're located a few blocks from the ocean. So the healing energy, and we're in Encinitas where the spiritual center is for Yoganand and all these places. And so there's a vibe here. There's an energy here. And in this building, there is something, not to say that we aren't doing hardcore treatments and there are days you won't feel well, but just go to our website, check us out. And we're also here to help you on your journey. Even if you decide not to be a patient, we want to connect you with other providers doing the treatments that we're doing if we can. There's a network of us, and we try to stay bonded together. But I have faith in our team and what we do and what we're doing here. And it's really a great place. So just go to our website, go to Instagram for eCore Wellness. And I don't know what else to say.
Okay. So now we are having a rapid fire round. So I expect the answer in one word or one sentence or two sentences. So coffee, tea, or IV drip? What is your go-to energy boost?
I like green tea, but I need a good Myers cocktail every now and then.
Mm-hmm. One book or resource you recommend to every Lyme warrior?
One book. I feel like our understanding of Lyme disease and how to treat it with ozone and different therapies and peptides and everything is going so fast. So a lot of the Lyme books are dated, but this is, anyone listening right now, this is called The Invisible Kingdom. And it's The Invisible Kingdom, and it's called Reimagining Chronic Illness. And it's by Megan O'Rourke, and it's called The Invisible Kingdom. And it just really gives you hope. And because with Lyme, we're also dealing with a lot of other things, and we might get rid of the Lyme right away, but you still are dealing with a gut dyssymbiosis or mold and everything like that. And so our treatments, deal with all of that. So this is just a really good book on dealing with that. It's called The Invisible Kingdom.
Okay. Right. A wellness trend, you think it is overrated?
I think it's overrated.
Yeah.
A wellness trend that I think is overrated.
Yeah.
I can't come up with one right now. Is that bad? I mean,
No problem.
I'm
Wellness.
I'm on the fence about hydrogen. I'm
Mhm.
on the fence about hydrogen, water, and hydrogen. And I think it's beneficial. But I'm not saying I'm anti, but I'm thinking that as a cure-all and a universal treatment for so many things, like, it might be a little overrated for everyone. But
A wellness habit you never skip, no matter how busy.
a wellness habit that I never skip, no matter how busy. Well, I deal with because I had thyroid cancer, so I don't have a thyroid. And so one of the most important things for me is sleep, and giving my body sleep. And so even if I'm having a lot of stress, if I'm in a different place and I know I need to take a sleepy time tea, or if I need to do something to help me sleep that night, I make sleep a huge priority in my life.
If you could give one sentence of advice to your younger self at the start of your healing journey, what would it be?
Your body is amazing. It will get you through this. Your body is amazing, and you will get through this. It can do this. It can take this. It can handle this.
Yeah.
Have faith in your body.
Mhm. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast episode. Evelyn, thank you for sharing your journey, your expertise, and your passion. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank
To
you for
all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this meaningful conversation. Healing is not always a straight path, but stories like Evelyn remind us that hope and progress are always possible. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who may need it, and don't forget to follow us for more real stories from Lyme community. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep supporting one another.
Thank you.